right, you ready to go?
Let's do this thing.
All right. 10 questions with assistant coach for the University of Michigan Wolverines, Kris Mayotte. You know that was my dream school growing up. I always wanted to go to Michigan.
Mine too.
Was it really?
Yes. My mom and dad are from Detroit. And so I grew up a huge Michigan fan. My whole family's big Michigan fan. Never got the opportunity. Obviously, I got a call when I was 36. I was just as excited as if I was 15. But it's one of those places. I remember once I got the job, I walked my mom and my brother and sister kind of through our locker room, and my mom got teary-eyed.
No way.
Yeah, it was. And so that was a big reason, for coming. I loved being in Providence. I loved what we were doing there. But my mom lives here, and so it's a little kind of payback to her, I'd say. This was part of her dream for me too. So there's a little thank you to her, and to come be closer to home and take this job.
Very cool, dude. That's unreal. All right. Well, that kind of leads us into question number one. Who was your biggest influence on your hockey career as you were growing up as a young buck in Pittsburgh, PA?
You know what? It's funny because when I was growing up, hockey was just kind of growing in Pittsburgh. Lemieux came in '83. I'm an '83 birth, so they started to get good in '90, '91, and it started to take off. And none of my family played hockey. There wasn't, and I wasn't a really big, good young talent. And so there were a lot of guys that kind of helped me along the way. My dad and obviously the parents, set who you are and kind of instill certain things in you. So those are the easy ones to say. But for me, Lemieux is the reason I played hockey. I loved him, and still I see him in a rink every now and then, and I become like 6 years old again, and he's just a god. But he was who. He just built belief throughout the whole city of Pittsburgh, really. And so that was a big part of where my love for hockey came from. And they were good, right? They were winning cups in '91, '92. So I was 8 and 9, and that was a big part. And I started playing when I was 7. So it wasn't, I was a little late, I guess, in that curve. But it was, the parents kind of instilled the work ethic. My dad was a big athlete. Or loved athletics. Baseball was my first sport. It was my love. But the Penguins and Lemieux kind of took me over the top in terms of wanting to chase the hockey dream. And then there were a lot of people along the way that just helped me. I remember Ed Topolesky, who passed away. Nobody would know his name, but he recruited me to play for a second team, and as a goalie on 2 teams. I was the only goalie. That was big, I think, in my development. I remember Mr. Kurjanowicz, which was one of my teammates' dads. I didn't know that the selects festivals were a thing. We weren't like a knowledgeable hockey family. We didn't know that they existed. He called me one day and said, "Hey, I signed you up to go try out for Select 15s in the Mid-Am district." Ended up making it. And so, you look back and it's all those little things and those people along the way that I guess believed in me to some extent and tried to help out, that ultimately allowed me to be where I am today.
That's unreal, man. That's unreal. And before this, you were mentioning, I didn't even know this, but you were cut from AAA in Pittsburgh, which wasn't necessarily a hockey hotbed. Your junior year of high school, so 16, 17 years old, and you ended up playing in the AHL. You had to have had an unbelievable support system to be able to.
It was, and it's funny, I didn't play AAA. I didn't even try to play AAA until my sophomore year in high school. So once I made Select 15s, I went to my parents, and we weren't a wealthy family, so we couldn't just, chase things wherever we wanted to go, or it was, hey, do I want to take a crack at this or not? And once I made Select 15s, it was like, hey, maybe I'm good enough to play AAA. And so played AAA my sophomore year in high school. And I was fortunate because you could play high school hockey in Pittsburgh at the same time. And I had a couple guys on my team at Central Catholic that were playing for the Hornets. And so, they kind of helped me to encourage me that I think you might be good enough to go do that, because I played for them my freshman year. And so we tried sophomore year, made it as a Hornet. Dwight LaBrosse was the other 83 goalie, and then the following year got cut, but was fortunate enough. I played in a tournament over the summer, and the coach there was running the midget program in Cleveland. So got cut from Pittsburgh at my junior year in high school. Went and played my junior year in Cleveland, lived in Pittsburgh, played in Cleveland, still played high school hockey that year. My senior year, played junior hockey in Cleveland, then took a year off, played a year in the USHL, and then the following year was a starter at Union College. So it all happened pretty quick, but you're right, the support and the love, and I was, my family sacrificed a lot for me to have those opportunities, and so I wanted to make sure, I took advantage of those.
That's unreal, man. So literally in 2 years, you went from being cut from AAA, or 3 years, cut from AAA to starting at a Division I college.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy ride. It really was. It's one of those, like, pinch yourselves, how did you end up here type thing. But again, I was fortunate at Union College. I mean, Shane Clifford is a goalie coach in Pittsburgh, and
well-known goalie coach. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, very good. And Jay Verity was a Union College grad, and he was the assistant coach for the Pittsburgh Forge at the time. And I never really worked with Cliffy just because goalie coaching wasn't that big at the time. But he was trying to recruit me from Sioux City to the Forge. And I said, no, I'm going back to Sioux City. One of the Union's goalies left their program that summer. Jay, they called Jay, hey, is there anybody out there? Cliffy said, hey, I think this kid, Kris Mayotte, might be able to do it. So I don't even know if Union College ever even saw me play, but I ended up there. I remember my first call with Kevin Sneddon. I told him I could win the job, and there you go.
You did. I love it.
I did.
Well, you mentioned our second question number 2. You were in Sioux City there, had an awesome goalie partner in Andy Frank, who
Awesome.
I played pro hockey with, him and his family. Awesome people. But you guys won a USHL championship that year. Very, very rare, very, very hard thing to do. It's a hard league to win in, although the Chicago Steel are kind of putting a dent into that right now with what they got going
Yes.
on. So what was your experience like winning a USHL championship in Sioux City?
It was incredible, and you always remember championships. Those are the things that I think stick out, and no matter where you are or when you do it, when you look back at your career, and those are the things that you really remember, and the guys that you remember. And it was funny. So Andy Frank and I were goalie partners together in Cleveland the year before.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So we were goalie partners in Cleveland, and then he got traded to St. Louis in the North American League. And then following year, I got drafted by Sioux City. Frankie just was brought into camp, and I think Coach Siciliano knew that we had a great relationship. He's like, hey, would you guys like to be partners again? And it was great. He was 2 years older than me. So, in Cleveland, he was the guy, and I was the young guy that was just kind of waiting my turn and getting games here and there. And then in Sioux City, we split the whole year. So it was a great experience, and we had a great group of guys. And Sioux City is one of my favorite places on the planet, and it really shouldn't be. It's not that great a place, but when you win championships places, you really enjoy them and you look back fondly. But we had a really good team, and we weren't the star-studded team. I mean, if you look at where the guys from our team went school-wise, it wasn't any of the true big blue bloods.
Was it the Michigans of the world,
No. I mean, we had, Justin Fletcher went to St. Cloud. Ryan Garris went to Duluth. And Zancanero went to BU. And other than that, it was St. Lawrence, Mercyhurst, Bemidji, Union. But we were such a good team, and we were such a tight-knit team. We were so close. We had great people in our locker room. Our coach was, character was a huge thing for him. And so when he put his team together, we brought in guys that got cut from other programs from training camp, who ended up being big pieces for our team. And it was a true collection of good, really good people that really enjoyed being around each other, loved going to the rink together. And then, in the championship, we were down early. We came back. We were up 2-1, lost game 4. And then in game 5, it was a 5-game series at the time. We were at Omaha, went down 3-1. And then with 8 minutes left, made it 3-2, tied it with 4 minutes left, and then won it in overtime. So it was, it was incredible. And those are guys that you still talk to today and still see and are excited to see. I actually saw, I talked to Frankie the other day, and so it was special.
That's really cool, man. And that was for the older people that are watching this right now. Sioux City's barn was about, what was it, like 3/4 sheet?
It was. I think it was 170 feet long and 68 feet wide. So it literally was a shoebox. It was an old concert hall that if you shot from the red line, it was a threat.
Chance.
But but for me, it was great. And for the goalies, it was great because we had a really big decor. So we had Art Feminella, who was 6'5".
No way. He was like 6'8", wasn't he?
Yeah, I know. He a monster. Nathan Schwartzbauer was 6'5". Ryan Garris was 6'3". So we had just these big D that could defend literally the wall from the dot. And then we had really good, hardworking, forwards that were just a pain to play against. And I think we only lost 2 games in our rink all year.
That's crazy.
It was small.
Like it was. First of all, you're getting dressed in the locker. It's like a stage room because it was a concert hall, and
exactly.
you walk like down 3 flights of stairs just to get down to the stage, which they put like carpet on.
Yep.
And then you walk down to the rink. The penalty box is like in the crowd, so it's not like
it's in a concourse. Yeah, you walk from the concourse up to your seats, and the penalty box is right there.
Which is unreal. You get a couple fans with a few too many in them that get upset with you.
You might wear a little bit of it at some point.
Yeah, for sure. But, oh, man, that was a fun barn to play in. And Omaha, you mentioned Omaha. I think they were playing at the Aksarben at the time.
Aksarben.
Which was kind of like the same thing. It was like the state fair concert hall kind of thing.
Yes, it was a rodeo, I think, venue.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Those were good days.
That's so funny. Well, good stuff. Fun reminiscing. So the next question I 3 have for you, mentioned you're a goalie. So as a goalie, that made it, we talked about before we even got on here, your ceiling. You got to as high as you think you could have gotten to. What's some advice for any young and aspiring goalies to help to try and hit their ceiling, maximize their potential, and be the best that they could be?
I think there's 2 qualities that I really like. And the first is hockey sense. The second is skating. And I think, one big thing that goalie coaching to some extent has unfortunately done, I think it's an unfortunate byproduct, is that the goalie looks somewhere else for answers a lot of the time. And, when you didn't have those coaches, like when I was growing up, you had to know your game inside and out, and you had to teach yourself, and you had to learn, and you would just sit at home and watch NHL goalies and try and figure out what they were doing and try and mimic them. And so my biggest thing is learn the game of hockey, be the smartest guy on the rink, understand, what your guys' responsibilities are, understand what the opposing team is trying to do to attack, understand your PK, understand your power play. The more you know your power play when you see it, it'll help you against another power play. And so I think learning the game is the biggest thing. I can't stand when you go and watch a practice and the coach is drawing up at the board and the goalies are off doing something else. The coaches are teaching hockey. Go learn hockey. I think it's a huge piece. Our goalie this year, Strauss, man, I honestly believe he's the best in the country. He had a .939 save percentage this year, and he is one of those guys who is a true student of the game. He watches more video than anybody. He watches the same amount of video as the coaches. I'll show a PK. I had the penalty kill this year. I'll show a PK scout, and he'll come up to me and be like, well, did you see in the other situation they had this guy, Sammy Walker from Minnesota was in the middle. He wasn't on the half wall. Is there anything different there? And so, he's a 6-foot goalie who's pretty athletic, skates pretty well, but it's his preparation that really, and his understanding of the game of hockey that really, I think, sets him apart from everybody else. And so you have to learn the game, and the smarter you are, the easier every transition will be for you. And so find ways to educate yourself on the game, know forechecks, know everything that, the players should know, and it'll really allow the game to become more predictable for you, which will go a long way. And skating with any position right now is so incredibly important. The pace of the game just gets faster and faster, and your ability, if you mix skating with a good brain, you'll make a lot of difficult situations look easy. And so, I think you have to focus on that stuff, and then you have to develop a no-break mentality. There only one guy gets to play, and I was fortunate enough when I was growing up, I played on 2 teams, and I was the only goalie on both teams. So I didn't have to compete for a job until really I got to midget hockey. I just got to play, and that was something that was good for me. But I think you have to, you're going to come up against a situation that is tough and a goalie partner that is good if you really want to reach a high level. And so you have to develop a mentality that you believe in yourself, you've put in the work, you understand what makes you successful. You be a good teammate, be a good guy in the locker room, be a good teammate to your goalie partner, but you have to have that competitive belief that you're the best guy for the job, and you have to go and attack it. And the guys that have that mentality and that belief in themselves, I think, are the guys that go the farthest. And I've worked with some good goalies, like Andy Isles was one of those guys that just had a incredible belief in himself. Nick Ellis, a guy at Providence that I worked with, sat behind John Gillies for 2 years, played I think 7 games in 2 years, but he worked every day in practice. And then all of a sudden his junior year, when Gillies signed pro, he broke records at Providence College, set the save percentage and the goals against record at Providence College after sitting for 2 years. And then Strauss Mann this year, I mean, he had an 8.95 his freshman year, and he put in a ton of work over the summer, both in the weight room and at his game, and really broke down his game. Strauss knows his game better than any goalie I've ever been around. So if we make an adjustment, we can sit there and have a film session. We'll talk. We did 2 things this year. We managed his depth a little differently this year. We had him play a little deeper in the net. And by deeper in the net, I just mean he went from, 3 inches between his heels and the top of the crease to toes at the top of the crease. So it's not like he was playing on his goal line. But we talked about that, and he implemented it like that because he really understood his game. He was able to understand what that would do to it. And then he would stay low through a lot of screens, and he was once he got to playing every game and he knew he was going to play every game, he just used a ton of energy in those situations. So we brought him up out of his stance a little bit, got him a little higher, allowed him to conserve a little bit more energy in those situations, but always also improve sight lines. And I'm telling you, we talked about this in a video session on Monday, and in practice on Monday when we were doing power play, he was doing it, and we didn't have to talk about it again. He literally, he took off, but he knows his game so well, and he understands what makes him successful. He understands what he does well, that making those little adjustments, he can do pretty quickly. And I think that's a big thing, because you don't want to have to spend 3-4 weeks in a season working on something. It's too late. So I think those are important. But know the game of hockey. Know your game. Don't rely on a goalie coach to tell you why something's not going right. Right? You have to have the ability to evaluate yourself, and then the athletic part of obviously, the skating and things like that.
That's unreal. So the one thing I wanted to kind of go deeper on, I always felt, looking back, being out of the college game now and not coaching at the higher levels, the kids that you only have to tell something once to, I feel like are the ones that end up developing the most and get better. And I feel like it's kind of 2-part. I feel like there's a part of their intellect, kind of just how emotionally intelligent they are, where they can do that, but also they're the self-learners, and they're the people that you don't really have to beg or prod to do something a certain way, or they they accept the coaching, and then they just want to get better at it. And it's like they take it upon themselves to do that. Is that like I felt the kids that made it that was one of their biggest qualities. Is that kind of what you're talking about with Strauss?
Yeah, no question. And I'm not saying, there are things that Strauss and I would talk about that I would have ideas and he would be like, well, no, I do it this way. And I think goaltending is a little different than other positions. And the big thing for me with coaching goalies is they have to feel comfortable doing it. It's their game. They have to go out and execute. It's not like if I would play it a certain way, it doesn't matter if he doesn't feel comfortable doing it, and you could do the reps, but Strauss was in a place that he could do it. But it's incredibly important. And and I ran the D this year, and we had a really good D core where we would show video and we would work on certain things just with puck placement and sticks and things like that. And and the guys that the quicker you can do those little things and get those basics under you, whether it's stick positioning and things like that, then you can start talking about deception. Then you can start talking about looking guys off. Then you can start talking about, doing different things. But you have to have that foundation first. And the foundation is the habits and the coaching and all those little things that once you have that, then you can start going and doing what Quinn Hughes does and things like that. But like Quinn Hughes has a foundation of skating first, right? And he's a really smart player, but he, and we talked a lot about it with Cam York this year. Is a little bit of an adjustment defensively for him this year. And it's like, you want the puck, you better be good defensively. You have to you have to think of yourself as a shutdown D man if you want the puck on your stick. And so, once he really embraced that and stick positioning and engaging guys defensively, he got the puck more. Now he's able to be special. But it really is, important to, you have to take coaching and you have to try it. And if it doesn't work for some reason, if it isn't comfortable, maybe it's not who you are or what you're going to do, but there are building blocks that go into becoming a really good hockey player, and you need that foundation and you need to do the little things really well to allow the rest of your game to take over and the special to come out. So I agree. The guys that can do it quickly just grow more throughout the year, right? Because now if it takes you a week to figure something out versus a month, now after a week you're on to the next thing. And so you just build so much more into your game. And so it's important that when you get coaching and there's something out there that can help you, that you really focus on it. Think about it away from the rink. Think about it while you're at the rink. Go to the rink with a defined purpose of how you're going to get better that day, what you're going to work on. And I think you'll see your game take off.
Love that. Well, we could probably talk a whole hour.
No kidding.
On that, but we got to move on here. We still got 6 more questions to go.
I had a lot of coffee this morning.
Yes. There we go. You get a little added energy from that muzzy you got there over here.
That's right. It's new. I'm a new man. It won't last long.
It should. Okay. So next question I have for you, number 4, is you've been fortunate to learn from some awesome college hockey coaches. You started off as a volunteer living at my house.
That's right. Thank you very much. Still appreciate that.
Under Coach Schafer, you've coached with Nate Leaman, won a national championship with him. Coached with Greg Carvel at St. Lawrence, but what he's done there and then now at UMass is pretty incredible. And now you're working with Mel at Michigan. So if you could, just like, what's one thing that maybe you've learned from each of those college? They're all either legends or going to be legends. What's one thing you've taken from them?
I've been really fortunate, that's for sure. And I, when I volunteered at Cornell with you, it was also new that I didn't know what stuff to take in and what stuff not to take in, so I probably didn't really get in as much as I should, haven't been there with Schafe just because everything was new. So I didn't know kind of how to filter a little bit. But the thing that really stood out was the culture to me, and how he, there's a lot of places that talk about culture and it's just a word. I thought Coach Schafer was the best at living it out and meaning it and doing it the right way. And, you know, he has a culture, whether it's the court or, you know, what you do around females or what you do in the training room or all of that, that I just think is so big picture thinking. And it really, you know, it really is true to, it grows the person. And through growing the person, you're growing the player, you're growing the program. And I thought his culture was incredible, and he never wavered from it. You know, it was, and the big thing that you learn in that is that it's always about culture, and it's hard work, and it never stops. And, you know, every decision is important. And, you know, Shafe, I think, does a lot of his culture is through his faith and his love and things like that. And I think that's why you see, you know, the players that play for him ultimately go through the wall for him, because I think he is the best at being committed to it and having his teams grow and his people grow, so that when they leave there, whether it's Kier Ross, who, you know, was the captain and a med student and getting eight hours of sleep a night, or Morgan Barron's obviously going to be a big time player, or any of Cole Bardreau, any of the big time players that have left there, whether you're going in hockey or outside, like those guys are leaving there prepared for life. And if I ever get the opportunity to do it, you know, I will take a lot out of his book in terms of what he does to grow culture and build it, and the type of people that he develops coming out of that, and players. I'm not saying he doesn't develop players. Like he does a great job with that. They're a great team, great program, but I really like the people part of how he does things. Carvey, I was really, he had just come from the NHL. He was the assistant there for 8 years and came back. So it was his first head coaching job, but I learned a lot in him and Ron Rolston, who's another guy I've been fortunate to be with. Him and Ron Rolston are very similar in this, that their ability to teach the game of hockey, I thought, was outstanding. You know, the video sessions, I think, are really, really good. And their ability to get their points across through video, and their ability to really teach and have the guys understand the why to what they're doing. You know, I think they don't create robots, they create hockey players, which I thought was really valuable. And not to say that all these coaches do this to some extent, right? Like Carv has a good culture. Nate has a good culture. Shafe they all have, you know, do these things well, but these are just things that I thought these particular people did exceptionally well. Nate is a worker. He's getting the most out of players. You know, I think Nate's gift is he can, you know, guys, they deserve success when they play for Nate, and he does a really good job of creating a team, and he does a really good job of pushing guys and knowing what gets the most out of each guy, and how to get the most out of them. And then he puts together the blueprint of development. I think the biggest thing that Providence does really well is they are a development-based program where they have to beat BU and BC if they want to win their league, right? But we weren't getting the same players that BU and BC were getting. So how do we beat them on a regular basis? And so it came from, you know, at Union. When he took over Union, they weren't a very good program. I know because I was on it. But how do you beat Cornell? How do you beat Harvard? How do you beat those schools that we're not going to get as good a player as they are? And so he just put in this blueprint of development, and we're going to get a B player or someone that we consider a B, and we have to turn them into an A by their junior year. And if we have junior class that's a bunch of A's, you know, we think we can beat anybody, right? And so that's his blueprint, and he sticks to it, and he I think he's a master at it. He has it figured out. He's really good at getting the most out of players and helping guys reach their potential. Mel is really good at keeping guys in a good place. I think he manages really, really well. We started this year 0-6-1 in the Big Ten. And, we were 4-9-1 at one point. And so in the Big Ten, starting 0-6-1, it's a 24-game season. We ended up a win away from first place. We ended up tied for second. We went on an incredible run. And the thing is the belief never wavered. It was still, Mel doesn't ride the emotional roller coaster of the season. You can't tell. It's incredibly difficult. And that's why it sticks out, because he would come to the rink on Monday, whether we gave up a 2-goal lead at home against Michigan State and ended up losing the game, or whether we won 6-0 at Penn State, he would come to the rink Monday and the energy would be there and the positivity would be there and the enthusiasm would be there and the belief, and he told our team all year how much he believed in them and how excited he was for what this thing was going to turn into. And I thought that was special because it's hard when things aren't going well, when you're 0-6-1 at the University of Michigan. It's hard not to just pull your hair out and, wonder what the heck is going on because you feel like everybody is looking at you like, what are those guys doing over there? And the belief in our room and the belief in our offices never wavered. And I thought that was really cool. And he lets guys, play. He really does, like, Yorkie and Cam York and Johnny Beecher and, the University of Michigan gets a lot of high-end players like Quinn Hughes, but, he lets them grow into their game and he lets them make mistakes and it's our job to, coach them up and help them through those, but he helps them. He really is a positive influence and support. So those guys, all of those come, there's a lot. I could probably give you 10 things that every single one of those guys does really well, but those are things that certainly stick out to me.
That's cool, man. And I think it's just interesting how it's all different too. Just different things that they're really good at. Just goes to show you, like, just be you as a coach. Be the best version of you. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. If I tried to be like you or you tried to be like Mel or Mel tried to be like Red or whatever, it just doesn't really work. You just got to be the best version of you, just like you ask your players to do.
No question. I think that's huge. And if you believe and you care for your players, which all of these guys do, all of these guys, you don't get a lot out of players if the players don't believe that you care for them. And all of these guys do that. And then there's a bunch of ways to skin the cat. You can, there's no one way. I'm fortunate. I think I've been around a lot. Even Coach Motzko with World Junior, I was fortunate to be with him. And so I've seen a lot of different ways to do it. They all at the base though have very similar beliefs in terms of how to get the most out of players, how to build a culture, making sure you have good people in your locker room, making sure they're attentive and things like that. The base is there, but how they go about it is different because their personalities are different. It's been fun to see.
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right, let's move on. So you have been a stellar recruiter in your day. How many years have you been doing it now? It's got to be, what, 9 years?
9, yeah.
9 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there'll be some kids that'll be watching this. What are 3 qualities you're looking for when you're up and you're watching a game?
The biggest thing that we're trying to figure out, obviously, there's the skill set, right? And people want to say it's all about intangibles. I got to be honest with you. It's not all about intangibles. I mean, you have to have a certain skill set that passes certain criteria. And with each one of my bosses that we just talked about, it's kind of changed. Mel's number 1 is skating. At Providence, we were really big on compete and not like at SLU with Carv, it was a lot of hockey sense. And so like and again, everybody in these coaches values all of it, but it's really, you could look and say that guy would be a good Providence player. That guy would be a good, St. Lawrence guy. That guy. Sure. But I think for us, so skating is crucial. Hockey sense is big in terms of, and I don't always, creativity. Obviously, offensive creativity is a valued skill, but do you manage the game? Do you understand the game? Can I see you playing multiple situations for us? If you're a defenseman, are you going to be able to PK? Do you have good defensive awareness? Can you break pucks out? Can you play against another team's top line? All of those things, are important. As a forward, do you make your teammates better? Are you the guy who drives the line, or waiting for other people to do the work? So I guess 3 things that we really look for are the simple ones. Hockey sense, compete. I think the biggest thing we do behind the scenes in terms of finding players and who we ultimately decide to recruit is we want guys that we believe can overachieve. And so a lot of that work comes from talking to coaches, talking to skill guys, talking to, teachers, why is this guy going to be better than what I think he is? And what is going to push him to be better? And so I think the overachievement part is a lot of who they are as people, how much time they put into it, how much they think about the game away from the rink. Is it a hobby for them? Is it something they think about just when they're at the rink? Or is it, are you Strauss man who is really thinking about his game and breaking down his game and, watching video and doing those things? So I think you're who you are. I think your talent sets the floor. Who you are sets the ceiling, and we're trying to find the highest ceiling guys.
Love that. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's why you're so good.
I stole that. I'm sure I stole that from somebody, but I've liked it.
Benny. Probably Benny.
Probably Benny.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned, you obviously coached at Providence, and one of the years that you were there, you guys won a national championship. Why? Tell me why.
We had a really good goalie, which helps. But we were a team a lot like this year's team at Michigan that really kind of took its lumps throughout the year. And it was not an easy year, and it was a preseason top 5 team in the country. I think we were 500 at Christmas, and nothing came easy. And even down the stretch, we were the last team to make the tournament. And so we had, I think is a good thing, because we had opportunities throughout the year to grab their attention and really focus them in and really say, hey, this isn't going how you guys thought it was. You guys either all get on the same page, or you're in jeopardy of this going the other way. But we had unbelievable leadership. We had Ross Maurerman and Nola Chari were our captains, and they were the best competitors. They were the 2 toughest kids I've ever been around in terms of what they could go through, what they could handle, and how well they handled adversity. Now Nola Chari is tough, like you see him in the NHL. He bounces people around, but I just mean their mental toughness and their ability to stay strong under pressure. And I think it played out very similarly in the national championship game. Obviously, we got a fluke goal, but but we kept coming back. We scored, then they scored 2, and then we got another one, and then they scored, and then we got another one. And so we never felt defeated. That team had a great sense of belief and great leadership. And then at the end, the last 5 minutes, and this is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life, just the talk on the bench and the encouragement of each other and how positive everybody was. And then all of a sudden, we didn't even have to coach the last 5 minutes. They were saying everything that we would say, hey boys, make sure we're getting it in. Hey, make sure we're working above the puck. Hey, let's be strong on pucks. Let's make sure we're staying D-side. I mean, you name it, they were on it. And I remember, there were a couple of things and habit things that we were really big on throughout the year. And one of it was, don't float, don't glide, don't float through your positioning. Like, make sure you stop and be in position. And, it was 6-on-5. The puck moves up to the point. Ross Maurerman, is going out to the weak side point, and he hits his edges. He doesn't just float out because there's no pressure on the strong side. He hits his edges. He gets his stick back in the lane. They try and throw a cross seam pass down below him. right on his tape, and so it was just those are the things that you look back on. You're like, hey, you guys might have been paying attention, but it was
That's such a cool thing as a coach, though, right? Like the fact that that's a play that you remember, just this little simple tiny thing that is so important to a game that you guys instilled from a habit standpoint, like with your players, and the fact that he was your captain. I mean, that says a lot about it too, because if your captains and best players and better players are buying into that kind of stuff, everybody else kind of has to too. So that's just really cool.
Yeah, and that's how we felt, and that's why that team was successful, because they were able to handle adversity, and they were mentally tough in tough situations. They could still execute what they should be doing in situations that I think we would all look at and understand if your mind was somewhere else, or if you lost it a little bit, right? Because you're talking about the last minute up a goal in a national championship game, right? Like that's what we all talk about, right? Who isn't thinking about going and picking off that D-to-D and going and scoring the empty netter and celebrating, right? Like that goes through, I think that probably goes through everybody's mind, but he stopped at the hash marks or tops of circles, got his stick in the defensive lane, and ended up with the puck on his tape. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the face-off goal. The Killer Miller.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, that's the other thing. And that's something else I maybe bring up is Kevin Rooney, his last year at Providence College, had 10 points. 10 points. And he's played 2 years in the NHL now, in the National Hockey League, with 10 points as a senior in college hockey. But Jack Eichel didn't get a point against him that game. And he won that face-off against Eichel, and we end up – that's the game-winning goal. The only point that Eichel got in that game, we actually put Achari out there, and they scored off a face-off, off the center ice face-off essentially, and nothing against Noel. But Kevin was really good at what he does. And what he does is he's long, he skates, he's smart, he's tough to play against, and he can win face-offs. And, and he did all of it throughout that game. And even though he didn't score a ton of points in his college career, there's a path to the NHL for guys that are excellent, or even better than excellent, elite at what they do, right? Because at some point a coach is just going to say, what can you do for this team? And if you're really good at something, if you're elite at something, a coach will find you. And same with Noel Achari. He had Bruce Cassidy in Providence in the AHL. Bruce fell in love with him there, gets called up. Bruce gets the job in Boston. And he already had a love for Noel and what he could do and what he could bring to a locker room and a team. And so now Noel's making, almost $2 million a year in the NHL.
20 goals too.
Scoring 20 goals, right? Which is incredible. But he just did enough to get another shift. He did enough to get another shift to earn the trust of the coach, and you see how it's grown.
Unreal. That's so cool, man. All right, so we mentioned the recruiting side of things. I wanted, and maybe it's a couple of the kids that you just mentioned, but I always love asking college hockey coaches from when you kind of like first saw them in the recruiting process to where they ended up at the end of the day. And it could be somebody that's playing in the NHL. It could be somebody that played 4 years and then, went on to bigger and better things outside of hockey. But like, what's one player that's like really surpassed your expectations of them? And then give us a little bit of a reason why you think that is.
This is so easy for me. He's actually still in it, but it's Tice Thompson. And Tice Thompson, I remember we first met him because we were recruiting Tage to Providence. Yeah. And he came on the visit, and, he was this, the little younger brother that's just kind of bopping around. But he was one of those kids that was such a competitor. But he wasn't a great skater. He wasn't strong at all. He was skinny. But he just was fearless. And, he was a smart player, and you trusted because Brent is he coaches in Bridgeport. Tage is a smart player. Yeah, Brent, his dad. And so you knew that there was, he's a coach's kid. You knew that there was hockey sense there, and there really is. But even, 2 years ago, I looked this up. He was 136th in points per game in the USHL. 136, there's only like 300 kids that play in that league in a year. Like, I don't know, but 136th in points per game. And then this year he was top 5 in the country, I think, in scoring. And so in a year and a half, he went from the, middle of the pack USHLer to one of the best players in college hockey. And it's his work ethic and his competitiveness. And he has you talk about you're trying to find that overachiever, and he is that to a T, where he has a chip on his shoulder in terms of, people want to talk about his older brother a lot. He has a chip on his shoulder, but he wears it with a smile, and he's one of those people that you come to the rink and you see him and he puts a smile on your face as a coach, because he's always smiling. He loves being at the rink. He loves working on his game. And the big thing that he's probably improved is his shot, which I think everybody can improve, right? And he went from a guy who is, when he came into Providence, he maybe weighed 150, but he's been good in the weight room. He works on his shot all the time, and now it's a weapon for him, and now he can legit beat goalies from distance. And he's the guy that I can't wait to see where he goes, because I think his ceiling is so high. And when we recruited him, like, we liked him, but we almost didn't offer him. He was deciding between St. Lawrence, Maine, and Arizona State at the time. And we knew that the time was kind of getting close to, he was thinking about making a decision. So if we wanted to be in the game, we had to be in the game. And get in there, and we got in, and fortunately for us, I think he liked Providence when we recruited Tage there, but he wasn't this highly recruited kid. He wasn't deciding from all the big, blue chip type schools, but he's going to end up being one of the best, I think, 99s in out of the country.
Love that. That's so cool.
It's awesome.
He's like a Kris Mayotte.
He's way better than Kris Mayotte.
Oh, that's funny. All right, well, moving on. One of the coolest things of your career has to be winning a gold medal for the World Juniors. And, I wanted to ask you about that experience because, first of all, the fact that U.S. is winning World Junior gold medals is just amazing for our country and for USA Hockey. But the way that it happened, beating Canada in a shootout, come on. So
man.
How cool is that? Like, what was that experience like, winning a gold medal at World Juniors?
You sit there and you look and you're like, which one's cooler, like the World Junior gold medal or the national championship? And they're obviously very different. And I think the national championship still probably, because it's such a longer journey to get there. But the World Junior thing is special because it's all of the emotions of a season in about 11 days, and you ride it all. You're done with that thing. You are absolutely exhausted, because it is so compacted, and the stakes are so high, and it really was incredible. And we had a really good team. And it's funny. I was just talking about this the other day when we went into, I remember our first meeting with them. We had all these plans of what type of team we were going to be. And the Penguins had just won the cup, being like playing fast and long and north and, just rimming breakouts and flying guys through the neutral zone. And we're like, we're going to be this transition team. We're going to be fast. We're going to do all this. And then we got to the tournament and we were a puck possession team. Like we didn't do much on transition. We didn't do a ton on line rushes. We were really, really good with pucks below the tops of the circles, and really good. And we could wear teams down. And, we had big guys like Jordan Greenway and Cunnin and guys like that could just put a D-man on their hip and be good. And then we had dynamic. We had Clayton Keller and Troy Terry, who obviously everybody remembers what he did for that tournament. Jeremy Bracco, who, you talk about someone who bought into playing for the team. He was our third line right wing for pretty much the entire tournament. And I remember it was midway through the tournament and he made a defensive read that we all kind of looked at each other and thought, well, if he's going to buy in like that, we're going to be a tough team to beat. And And because when you're good structurally and you're responsible defensively, you get the puck a lot more, and then when you're special talent, then when you have the puck, you can be special. And so I think that team really bought into that. But I remember the championship game. We're going in, and this is very similar to the Providence National Championship, was just there, cool, calm, collected in big moments. And we go into the third period. It didn't start the way we wanted. Canada went up 2-0. We came back and tied it in the second period. So we go into the third period like, all right, fellas, we came back. Let's go have one good period and we win a gold medal. And I think in the first 5 minutes of the third period, they scored 2 goals and we're down 4-2. And so, it's one of those, that's where what you remember the most is it's one of those opportunities where guys could feel sorry for themselves. Guys could be like, this isn't going the way we want. It's not easy. And they just had such a belief and such a confidence that it never wavered. The talk on the bench was always positive. Everything was positive. And then, but I remember when Canada scored that 4th goal, the entire rink, including their bench, celebrated like the game was over. They thought they had just won the game. And we went out and scored the next shift to make it 4-3. And I think that was the biggest thing, because all of a sudden they let themselves get a little too high and they allowed us to come back. And then, obviously, we had Troy Terry, who in a shootout, you can't stop him. So, it was very similar to Providence, where it's the belief and the positive and the good. The moment never was too big for them. So their ability to stay with it in the big moments was ultimately what got the gold medal.
That's sick, man. That's so cool. I remember texting you just like, what?
It was unbelievable. And you say, and I say that acting like, and I wasn't one of those, I'm one of those guys in the shootout where you're nervous as heck, right? Because as coaches, you don't really have control, like the players have to go out and do it. And they have more poise and patience and belief, not belief, because we all believe in them, but more poise than I do in those situations as a coach. That's for sure. And
yeah, I used to say I absolutely loved shootouts when I was a player. It was like my favorite thing. As a coach, I could not despise them anymore. It's the worst.
It is. It's so bad, but it's so hard to watch. But that was, their mental ability to execute in big moments and under pressure was special.
That's really cool. That's awesome, man. All right, I got I think 2 more questions for you.
All right.
Okay, first one is, and you actually alluded to this a little bit earlier, but your name has been mentioned a couple times for a couple head coaching jobs. I know you've been on some interviews and stuff. What's that process like for you, having been an assistant coach, and like we even talked about before, getting to learn from so many successful head coaches? How do you kind of manage going through that process, and like what are some things that would be important to you if you're able to take over your own team as a head coach? It's something I always used to think about when I was an assistant coach. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously I haven't been very successful with any but no, I think, and for me, the toughest thing the challenge that I've faced the most in that regard is I do believe I've worked with so many good people, and I think I have a lot of, understanding, and I think I kind of get a good feel of how I would do it, but it's condensing all of that and streamlining it and kind of getting everything that you know and believe and want to sell or show in a concise form and present the right things. And so that's been one of my challenges is, how much and especially when I was at Providence, because when I was interviewing, I think a lot of people assume that, hey, Nate does it this way. You're with Nate, you played for Nate. Are you going to be Nate? And Nate does a lot of things that I will do. Obviously, I'm a huge believer in what he does, but I'm not him. and I'm not Carve or Schafer. Like, I have a lot of that stuff, but for me, the biggest thing is I want to create an environment to have everybody reach their potential. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I want the rink to be a place that's fun to come to. And they believe that they are, I want to create a culture that, that it pushes each other, but is based on, this is where I go to get better, and we push each other and everything like that. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what all of these successful programs have, is it's a place where people enjoy going to the rink every day, for one reason or another. And it's incredibly important. And I think that's the biggest thing that, I would do it a little differently than a lot of guys. I think there's a lot of different ways to make the rink a fun place to play. I'm very much a relationships first guy. I very much believe in, make sure that the players know that you believe in them and that what you're doing and asking of them is best for them. And then, you can ask a lot of them, and they'll grow with you. But that's a lot of kind of where I think all of it's going. Like, you look at Dabo Sweeney or Coach O, or, a lot of these guys, they talk about, you can be vulnerable as a coach now, and I think it goes a long way. And I think the more of a human being you are, the better it is. You don't have to be this big, tough guy that never made a mistake in his life. I'm very upfront. If I screw up during a game, or I do something, or I lose my emotion, I apologize to our guys and I let them know that I screwed up. Or, if I call for a breakout that isn't successful and a head coach comes down and is like, "What's he doing?" I'm like, "Well, that's my bad. I did that. I'm the one that put them in those situations." And I think that's big. And I think, I think that's kind of where this is all heading, is it's not, the biggest thing that I think I'm learning is people think that the attention spans are getting shorter. I disagree. I just think you have to give them valuable info to hold their attention. I just think you have to actually be prepared, know why, believe in it, and tell them the why, and really let them know that you've thought about this, you care. You're not just spewing off at the mouth just to tell them something that you heard somewhere. I think they have so much, players now have so much info available to them that you have to be sincere in what you're telling them, and you have to have a reason why you're telling them that. And I think that doesn't scare me. That I like it that way. That's because I'm that way too. I like to watch video and figure out the why. I'm doing the same thing. You watch NHL clips, you talk to NHL coaches, you're doing all the same thing, figuring out that stuff. So I embrace that. And I think that's the culture that I would be the most excited for, is good people, make good people, teach the game of hockey, and really help them develop and really have that be the base of what's going on. And once you do that, sky's the limit, I think.
I love that, man. We're so on the same page with that stuff. And I even go too far now when I'm coaching kids. Like, I'll tell them, like, my job as a coach is to really push you hard, get you outside your comfort zone, and I'm going to mess up at times. So, so like, I'm going to say something, or I might push you harder than I should have, or, and then just I'll apologize afterwards and expect it.
Yeah. And
mess up as a coach and do that.
Exactly. And so on the flip side, when I coach you, like, we have this, I had the D in the PK, and we had this sheet of paper for the D that was just called the core. And it was the expectations on a daily basis of what I'm going to coach you on. And it's not going to be a turnover. It's not going to be if you fall down. It's not going to be, if you make a bad read. Like, we're going to talk about, hey, what could we have done differently? And a lot of times with turnovers and things like that, it's, were you in the right spot or not? And if you were in the right spot, then, okay, what was the next thing? And so for me, I I don't like to coach the results of the plays either, and because if the process is right, if the habit is right, if what you're trying to do is the right thing, like stuff happens, and I think a lot of times where players get in trouble, or even coaches get in trouble, is they want to coach the result, and then they're surprised when the player's defensive. And it's like, and then all of a sudden they say, well, that player's not coachable. It's like, no, if I came up and you made a mistake and I told you, yelled at you that you screwed up, would you be defensive? Probably. Like, that's human nature. And especially when you're in the heat of a game and the emotions are high, he's not uncoachable. He knows he messed up. Like, what info can we give that player that helps them be better the next time, other than don't put it on that guy's stick in the slot? Thanks, coach. I know,
Thanks, tips.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good stuff, man. All right. One more question I have for you. And this, we both mentioned at the beginning of this that we were, our dream was to play at Michigan and be a Wolverine, being a recruiter, and being in it for 9 years now. If you can give any piece of advice to any kid that has a dream of playing college hockey or even pro hockey and beyond, just one thing that they can go to bed and say, hey, okay, if I do this, or I think this way, it will help me to actually achieve that dream, what would it be?
You can always get better. And I think, it's huge. The growth mindset, I think, probably gets used a lot now, but I am such a believer in it. And, I even talk about it with our guys in terms of roles on our team and things like that, or our recruits who don't like the role that they have on their team. My message a lot of times is you have to buy into the role that the coach believes is going to help the team the best, because that is what the coach is there to do, to make you better individually, but to ultimately help the team reach its potential. And so I think the player's job is to do that role to the best of their abilities. Now, what the player, I think, can do is go to the coach and say, listen, I'm going to PK my butt off. I'm going to work to win faceoffs and get pucks out. I'm completely committed to doing that for this team and for this team. Is there anything you and I can work on that can help me potentially improve my role? Right? Can we work on shooting? Can we work on some cycling? Can we work on some power play stuff that I will do this role today? It doesn't mean that, and I think for coaches too, like, you got to understand that kid, they want to be the power play guy. They want to be relied on. They want to be, and it's not because they're selfish but they want to feel a big part of the team. And a lot of times scoring goals and doing those things is what people consider really contributing to the team. So everybody wants to do that. And so it's, this is your role today. It doesn't mean it's your role next week. Let's work to improve it. As long as you're committed to doing this for the team. And so I think it's always understand where you are, understand what your strengths are, and what you can do to get better. And, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's, just watching more hockey, really evaluating when you watch, if you have the ability to watch yourself, don't watch your highlights, like watch all the little plays that build into great plays. And I think it's the growth. I really do believe it's the growth mentality. Like I said, we're looking for the overachiever and the guy that is just hitting his stride when he gets to Michigan and really has a belief, but not only a belief, but a plan in terms of how he's going to continue to get better. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it's going to be hard. You're going to hit adversity throughout this thing that, that a lot of people don't get through. And, you see a lot of people back out of athletics and they don't battle through it. And it's going to be hard, and understand that it's going to be hard, but you have to embrace that side of it too. And when you do those things, it really, when you are successful, it means that much more. So stick with the growth mindset, keep working, and surround yourself with people that you trust. and that believe in you, and, you know, you'll go far.
I love that. Again, couldn't say it any better. So I'll just leave it at that.
I feel like you and, you know, you and I have talked a lot. We worked together for a year, but we you know, we talked a lot after that, and obviously living with you. But I do believe that, you know, you and I are on the same page with a lot of this stuff, and how we believe, just how we believe people improve, and how that process works. And again, I think it's a lot of, hey, this is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to do this together, and we're in it together, and we're going to work to get better. And, you know, at the end, all your goal is, as a player and as a coach, is to reach your personal potential, right? Once you reach your personal potential, when I was done with hockey, it wasn't that hard for me, because I knew I had reached what I could possibly do, or at least I felt that way. And so when I walked away, I wasn't crushed. I gave this everything I had, literally everything I had, and I wrote it as hard as I could. And this is where it got me. And did I make millions of dollars? No. But did I have a heck of a career, and better, you know, I loved every second of it, you know? And so, you know, enjoy it while you're doing it as well, because it's not going to be there forever. So enjoy what you're doing and where you are, and just the chase of being the best you can become.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, let's leave it at that. That's unreal advice for everybody out there. Well, thank you for doing this. It's nice. It's been nice catching up here too.
I know. Same.
It's like very formal now.
The text was 20 to 30 minutes, but I had two coffees this morning, and that's how it goes, you know?
That's okay. Hey, man, it's tough to do things short when you have such a history, and, you know, being able to coach with you and keep in touch after all these years has been great. And for me, it's been really cool to see your success in the coaching industry, if that's what you want to call it. So continue to keep up the good work, and enjoy that time out there with the Big Blue in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, same to you, man. It's, you know, we're all doing the same thing. And now you look at teachers and all that, we're all doing the same thing. We're all working for the same thing, just in different places sometimes. But this was fun. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet.